Hello world of YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Viral's Movie Reviews, the show where I take a look at movies that you guys suggest, I go to the movies and see, or I feel like discussing. And while in the update I talked about doing like a horror gauntlet 2021 special, instead I'm going to focalize it a little bit and talk about a sequel to a movie that brought this show back to begin with, Halloween Kills, the sequel to 2018's Halloween. That was a sequel to the original Halloween that retconned all of the other sequels. I was pretty stoked for this movie. I really liked the 2018 sequel. If you guys saw my original review of that, I still think it's one of the better sequels in the Halloween series, a series that I really enjoy a lot of the aspects of, for better or for worse. Leaving Halloween Kills, I was wanting so much more out of this movie. This movie was a drastic downgrade in quality in a lot of regards, and I was very disappointed by this movie. I don't think it's the worst sequel, but unlike the sequels that are worse than this, I don't feel like I can watch this movie in like a hilarious sense like I can, you know, in Part 6 with Paul Rudd doing his thing, or how I can with Part 5 and 4 with some of their crazy concepts, or shit like cops with squeaky horns. Like, those aspects, you know, as far as quality-wise, set the film below Halloween Kills. But in the case of Halloween Kills, it's a movie that feels like a middle piece of a puzzle, and feels like a movie where very little actually happens in the grand scheme of the plot, and it creates this frustrating watch. At least it did for me. You know, there were things that I did like. You know, I enjoyed the gore in the movie. It's a very graphic movie. Like, the kills in the movie are intense. Some would say gratuitously so, to some degree. There's a kill where Michael just keeps going, and it's like, man, that guy's already dead, Michael. What the fuck are you doing? By and large, I appreciated the special effects that went into the movie. You know, the sound design for the kills is very, very focused on, and I don't mind that. Rachel and I saw it. She kind of minded that aspect of it, but it's understandable. There's a lot of fucking gore in the movie. I also didn't mind the cast here. You know, Judy Greer, Andy Matichak. I think Anthony Michael Hall, in some aspects, does a pretty good job with Tommy Doyle. There is an interaction between him and Jamie Lee Curtis that I thought was kind of cute. It was a good sort of follow-up to things from the first movie. You know, I thought Dylan Arnold's more prominent point in the screen time wasn't bad either. I liked the fact that they still kept it bare bones as far as who they brought back. You know, everyone else they brought back were like any other loose threads from the first Halloween movie. You know, Sheriff Brackett's back. Lonnie is a focus. The kid that just had a part where he got cussed at by Loomis. He's now a prominent part of the movie. The nurse that watched him escape. The other kid that survived. I love that those characters still play a part in how they integrate the new characters in with those. I also really liked, as a fan of the first Halloween, that stuff did a lot for me. You know, I appreciate and respect the fact that this movie takes place literally right after 2018. I liked that this re-tackles the mob hunting Michael Myers in the night aspect from Part 4 a little better than it did in Part 4. It ties into the whole mob mentality messaging that I thought got a little muddy, a bit much at points, but I do like that it was tackled at least a little better than just the rabid drunks in the night like what happened in Part 4. I also obviously loved the music. You guys know I loved John Carpenter's work. I loved the soundtrack that him, Cody Carpenter, and Daniel Davies pulled together on this. I think that they add some more like gothic elements that really make the darkness more present, and it kind of lends to the sort of monstrous feel that the movie kind of has as a whole, because like I'll complain about in a little bit, I don't like that not a whole lot happens. It's very much a monster movie slasher, but like I just wanted more out of it. You know what I mean? The music, though, I can't compliment it enough because it is a very, very good soundtrack. I'll talk about it more on the listening log, but I liked it. I liked the soundtrack a lot. Are you surprised? And obviously the way that the movie was shot, it's gorgeous, looks really good, all that sort of stuff. As far as other stuff that I didn't like in this movie, because the buck kind of stops there. I like the cast. I like what parts get to shine with the cast. I like the kills. The side characters are great. The integration of the original Halloween, cool. I even like that they focused on Michael Myers displaying the bodies, because that was like a thing in the first movie that I feel like was even more focused on in this movie. You know, when he kills the gay couple that's living in his house, which I enjoyed the gay couple in this movie. I like both the actors that played them. But the fact that he like displayed them like a picture that was in their house, I liked that. You know, that kind of stuff. I thought it kind of, again, ties into the first movie really, really well. This movie just feels like it doesn't go anywhere. It feels very directionless. You know, the things that it wants to tackle, it does, but it feels like to service nothing. You know, there's this whole subplot with mob mentality, which the last movie had this whole messaging of like killer fetishizing and like true crime culture. I feel like it handled that better in that movie than it handled mob mentality stuff in this movie, because there's this whole subplot involving Anthony Michael Hall's character. Also, the other big thing that was really disappointing to me, Jamie Lee Curtis is barely in this fucking movie. Like, she was all over the ad campaigns. She's barely in it. I'm sure she'll have a more prominent part in the third Halloween, maybe, in this trilogy. But like I said, this just feels like a middle piece with just trying to flesh out the imposing force that is Michael Myers, which I think it's effective at doing that, because Michael kills a lot of people in this movie, easily maybe his highest body count, but that's really all this feels like. I appreciate concepts that they tried to introduce involving Michael in ways that other movies have tried to. I appreciate that. You know, there's a part where the sheriff from the last movie is talking about Michael Myers. I really appreciated that, because it felt like the truest version of this character, more so than what Rob Zombie tried to do, than what the cult stuff tried to do, as much as I'm fascinated with the cult era of this series. Even everybody else, like their attitudes in the movie, as much as I liked the cast, there's parts of their attitudes that just feel like it's so self-absorbed in what's not actually the case, that again, it's kind of frustrating and detracting from the overall experience of this movie. I'm genuinely curious as to where they're going to take this trilogy and cap it off and end it at. But as far as looking at this film as a middle piece, it's an innocuous middle piece of a puzzle. You know, it feels like a 2010s style slasher with just a high body count. As far as an end to what could be a trilogy of Halloween 1, Halloween 2018, and this, it's even more of a pointless film, because it feels like it resolves itself. Like, Jamie Lee Curtis has this monologue in the end where it feels like it's building up to this finale, and it is, but it feels like it belongs in a completely different movie, because it's the end of a second piece, not the end of a trilogy. As a Halloween fan, I've seen them do worse in a lot of aspects, but the bad stuff here isn't entertainingly so, like it is in the other sequels. You know, which makes this, again, just frustrating viewing experience. You know, it's definitely a pretty big disappointment for me. It's a movie that the more I think about, the more I don't like it, because there's other things that I didn't even talk about. Like, a lot of the deaths are really like, but there's like a montage in the end that I thought was poorly constructed. There's some cinematography stuff here and there that I feel like is kind of sloppy involving Anthony Michael Hall's character. They do this stuff with the camera where it like zooms in a weird way, or the camera just moves in a weird way around his character that I thought was kind of distracting. But by and large, the film is fine in that regard. It's fine in a lot of aspects, but it's frustrating to watch as a piece of a series. And so I'm going to give it... I was honestly sitting at a higher rating with this all day, but sitting here and talking about it right now, I really want to give this like a 5 out of 10. Like, all of its positives are cool. But however, the more I really sit down and think about the music, because the music in this film I just really liked. I liked the atmosphere it created to this movie. You know, their soundtrack was so good, and how it really pulled me into the overall vibe and tone of the film. I want to give it a 6, and I'm still, I think that's what did it. You know, because I was talking to people, and I was still describing the movie, but that music kept sitting with me, and I was like, man, it enhances the stuff that I do like in this movie. And one of the biggest things I like about this movie are the kills. If you like horror movies with kills, it's that kind of movie, which isn't like the best type of Halloween movie, but it's a really good one. It's a fun one, but it's just not the best. And that's why it's sitting at a 6. The fact that it feels like a middle piece, when I've seen a lot of middle pieces that don't feel like that, it makes this a much lesser experience to me. But what did you think about Halloween Kills? Have you seen it? Did you like the ghost song that was in the credits? I did like that. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. If you like this review, be sure to give it a like. If you want to see more of my music, gaming, and general nerdery content, be sure to subscribe. Special thanks to my patrons. If you want to join the ranks to get early access to content, exclusive content, or to help drive the community, it's linked in the description. This isn't the last time I'm going to be talking about Halloween this month. I've actually got a couple other Halloween-related things I'm going to be talking about. One in its own video, and one as a part of a list. Hopefully you're excited for that. I'm going to go. I've been Viral Rack. You guys are good days, lives, and situations. And I'll see you another day.